Okay, so this is a short video on how to do some things with photos or images in using NDO. So I was given this image of some floorboards, and I'm just going to show you some of the things you can do to try and generate the different passes you'd need for a PBR output using NDO. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a high frequency normal map, which is basically just going to try and get some of this grain and things like that just directly out of the texture. The thing with this texture at the moment is it's a little bit on the dark side. I'm just going to make a copy of it, and I'm just going to add a levels to it. I'm just going to do it this way because it's fairly easy. So I just want something which is kind of want to bring it back into range a bit. Maybe something like that. Just so it will give us a good range of kind of like light to dark, and we'll get some interesting stuff going on in it. So now I've got that copy set up. I'm just going to make another copy of it, so I've got two. Just so that if the thing with NDO is it can screw up, and if it does, it's really hard to get back, because essentially what it's doing is it's performing an action after an action after an action. So it kind of makes more sense to kill it. And keep a copy of what you wanted, what the state was before you did the NDO thing. This will make more sense as I do it. So I'm just making a copy of it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the copy. So I've gone and opened up Quixel, and this is open in here. So this is what this bit is. And I'm just going to click on the N to get NDO open. So what we can do is we can turn this into a project, and if you've already got a normal map made and you turn this into a project, that's probably the best way to work. However, this we can just actually start from the image that we've got. So I'm just going to go up to this part here and go to Photo Normal Presets. So under Photo Normal Presets you can pick a bunch of different stuff, and you can pick something which fits your the type of thing that you're trying to make. So there'll be something in here that you think is kind of closer to the kind of detail. So there you go, there's flat wood. So if we click that, we would, and we set it to is tileable, because this is going to be a tiling texture. And if we hit active dock, then what it'll do is it'll start to go through these different passes to generate a normal map from it. So this is what you get. To be honest, you could use any of those things. Mega Cliff is a good one, which you would apply to this, and you would get something that just looks hideous and you think it'd be no use at all. But actually, once you start to dial it back, it gives you loads and loads of control. And Mega Cliff, in particular, is a favourite of mine to use. However, we're going to stick with this for this one, just to keep it interesting. I can sort of guess what's going on with the normal map with this, but we can get a preview by basically clicking this, which means it's going to fire up 3Do. So 3Do is this part here. Okay, so it's open, so we basically get this extra window, and if I hold Alt down and left click, I can move around. I'm not going to go too much into the details here, the main one being that you can just control the lighting with this one, which is, and do things with the lighting like this. So you can put a headlight on it so it's always lit, stuff like that. But I'm not going to delve too much into that. So I can keep this open. We don't really need to look at the normal map underneath because we're going to evaluate it here. So this has got, as is often the case with any normal map that's generated by NDO, it's got far too much information in it. So what I tend to do is I switch all these things off, which you've seen me do before if you've watched any of the other videos I've got. And then what I do is I try to bring the detail back in. Now, I'm going to start with the fine detail first, because it's the stuff that's most important, and it's the stuff that's I'm most likely to keep. So yep, that's fine. I'm going to keep that as it is. I'm not going to change anything. And then I'm going to go on to the medium detail, and that's looking pretty good too. But if I dial it down a bit, does it look better? No, let's keep it fairly high. Okay, so I quite like that. I'll go with something like that. Large bevels. See, this is where it starts to get a bit silly. So if I half it, is it worth keeping? I'm going to overcrank this a bit anyway, just so you can really get the effect of it. Yeah, I'm not sure I like those. Yeah, I'll keep that as it is. Large cracks. This is the one I think we just definitely probably won't want. Or if we do, we just want a little bit of it. Does that make a difference? Not a massive difference. So say we're happy with that. That's going to be roughly our texture. We've got a bit of change in the pieces. It looks pretty decent. So yeah, well, let's say we're going to go with that. So if I just move this out of the way, you can see that our normal map now is updated. Okay, so we've got a base pass of what a normal map, what it could look like with a normal map, which is great. Now what I want to do is I want to kind of push some of these shapes a bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, with the new layer, I'm going to actually paint over the top. I'm going to paint these cracks in. I'm just going to use white because I'm going to invert what I do. I'm going to make this brush a little bit bigger so we get a sense of that there's something actually happening. I'm just using a soft brush so it should soften the edges slightly, and I'm just going to lay in some lines. And I'm just going to put ones on the end as well, so I've just got something there. I'm just going to grab these from here, Control T, and then I'm just going to stretch them out until they hit the ends, and they'll be nice and straight. And they should tile perfectly. Okay. Now what I need to do is go and do the bits on the sides, or go horizontally. So I'm just holding Shift down and drawing across. Right, hopefully I haven't missed any, but if I have, it doesn't really matter too much. Just show it off. So this is basically these are going to be our cracks. So I've got this on my own layer. Again, I'm just going to make a copy of that just so I've got it. I'm going to switch it off. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to generate a normal from it. So there we go. So if I just fire up my... Okay, so as you can see, we now have a normal map with this extra detail on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it an innie, so I'm going to make it slant down. Let's have a look at the lighting on that. And as you can see, you're getting real definition there. We can change the size of it if we want. Yeah, we probably want to keep it quite small. And we can change the type of bevel. So if we change it to an outer bevel, it will get bigger, and if we change it to a stroke outer, it will do the same kind of thing, but it will be more pronounced. So I'm going to go try a stroke emboss, and what that should do is it should give us quite a strong edge, which I know is not overly realistic, but it will give us quite a strong kind of like definition between the two pieces and in between these two sections as well. I'm probably going to pull the depth of that down now. The other thing we can do is change the blending mode, so we can make it so it blends properly over the top of the other one like an overlay. But I'm not that bothered about it doing that, to be honest. Right, so now we've got that. Say that's what we're happy with, then that's cool. We can carry on. Okay, so now this normal map's made and completed. I'm going to try and generate some maps from this normal map that are going to be useful for us. So the first one I'm going to make is a AO map, so I'm going to go into Map Converter and I'm going to select AO and it's tileable, and I'm going to select the active dock because I've got the normal map selected. So what it makes is quite noisy, but we can play with these values and we can change them. So just go with the large shadows, just open them up, change this curve to half round, That's probably going to give me what I need, because I'm going to edit it anyway, and I'm just going to not bother with the medium shadow part. So say I'm happy with that for my ambient occlusion, then I'm going to do Control, Shift, Alt and E to make a flattened version of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the levels. And all I'm going to do is just bring dark parts up a bit, flatten it out a bit at the top end, and make these all a bit flatter so that they don't encroach too far into the texture when we use it as an AO. Then I'm just going to drag the grey down here so that there's less areas are actually black and there's a bit more variation. So I'm going to go with something like that for my AO, which I think should be fine for this. I'm then going to make a copy of that. Actually no, I'm going to generate my next map first. So the next map I'm going to make is, I'll go back to my normal map. I'm going to generate a cavity map. So back to map converter, and this time I'm going to select cavity, and again all the same things again. Got this as my active dock. The cavity map basically, it maps the edges, and it maps it in terms of what is convex and concave, and it just uses a light colour or a dark colour. So if we look at this, you can see that basically bits that are going in are dark, and the bits that are going out are like lighter, like towards white, and then everything else is grey because it's not really changing, and that can be quite useful. So if I take this and just grab Control A, Control C, copy it, paste it into here, and then I'm going to set this to multiply. And what we end up with is a map that has, it just pushes those dark areas a bit more, and then my cavity map I'm just going to adjust the levels of, just to bring out of that stuff. Now I'm going to do my trick of flattening all of that. It helps if I had it on the top layer. That from that one, do it that way, and then it is both of those layers. And I'm just going to, because it's a bit noisy, I'm just going to try a couple of things. I'm going to blur, surface blur it. And sharpen up the bits that are meant to be sharp. There we go. So we've got a kind of nice sort of semi-stylized mapping of light and dark areas. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to go back to our original. I'm going to take the original one, I'm going to apply an adjustment layer to it. I'm going to give it some, just going to give it levels. I'm just going to lighten it up a bit, get it where we're happy, somewhere like there. And then I'm going to drop in our new cavity map, so Control A, Control C to copy it. I'm going to drop that over the top, and I'm going to set it to soft light. And as you can see, what it's starting to do is it's starting to just add a bit of detail over the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that back to nothing, and then I'm going to pull it in so it starts to make a bit of difference. Now, ideally, this so this is what it was before, and this is what it is now. It is reasonably subtle. It could even probably go a bit more subtle on it. But what it does is it ties the effect of the normal map back into the effect of this a little bit more. So these should all work together a little bit better. So we've got this, we've got AO. What we really need beyond that is we need a roughness map. What we could do for the roughness map is switch off the flat wood, maybe, and we could, from that, we could generate an AO map. So we've got our AO. This is probably going to work quite well as a roughness map. We probably don't want it to be completely white, because we don't want it to be this way around. We want to invert it to begin with. because what we want is we want these areas down here to be rough and these areas to be less rough, but we don't want these to be completely white either. So let's make a copy of that, and then I'm going to Control I to invert. So these are going to be the shiny bits and these are going to be the not so shiny bits, and then what I'm going to do is going to add levels on top of that. So I'm just going to do it this way. Adjust levels. So those bits are rough, and the rest of it is also fairly rough to start with. So I'll go something like that. In fact, let's do it this way just to show the difference in it. Okay, so I'll create a new texture. I'm going to paste that in. Whatever that is, that's not what we want. So I'm going to paste this in as, this is going to be our roughness. So this is going to be, let's go to blending options and set it in the red. Then with the metalness, it's just going to be black because we're not going to use it. And our AO, drop it in there, and it'll be AO, and blended options. So that's our RMA texture, that's our albedo, that's our normal. So what I'll do is I'll save these out and then we can have a look at them in Unreal. Okay, so we're back in Unreal, and I'm just going to apply this stuff now. I've imported these textures, so I'm just going to go to materials and create a material instance from this. And open it up and apply some my textures to it. And then we have a wood material which has information purely just derived from what we've done in terms of texturing. So what we can do is we can go into here now and we can start to apply that to this as well, and to this, and to this. We can start to edit some of these values to get something we're happier with. So let's maybe turn the normal map down a bit. Not so busy. And let's tweak the roughness a bit. So flatten it out a little bit. There we go. But for very little work, it's quite defined, it's pretty legit. And if there's anything you're not that happy with, you can go back in and fix it. Just bring a light in there so we can put some different lighting.